The following presentation was recorded at the 2025 Southeast Linuxfest in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is licensed under a Creative Commons license. For more information on the Southeast Linuxfest, visit www.southeastlinuxfest.org. Come join us next June.
Okay, how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Are we ready to start? Got 1 minute. Okay, just so you know, this is very introductory about what Linux can do. It's not about settings. We're not going to talk about anything very technical. We're going to talk about some of the applications that Linux can give you. You know, what Linux can do for you. And that isn't to say the applications themselves are easy. It's just to say we're not going real in depth to security or operation or what setting does this. We're having a discussion, and it can be a discussion. So if you want to speak, make sure you have the microphone. We'll hand you a microphone because if you don't have the microphone, nobody can hear you outside of this room. So this is being recorded, televised. That's an old way of looking at things, isn't it? Televised. Okay. So now this is about what Linux can do for you. We don't worry about any settings. We're not talking about neckbeard stuff. We're talking about things that Linux can do for you. Okay, especially high school students. Now, my name's Scott Hood. Our first name's John. You have to understand I go by Scott because my sister's name is Robin. That makes her Robin Hood. Yeah, I did not grow up as Little John and Robin Hood's Merry Band of Criminals. Call me Scott. Okay. I'm a Linux hobbyist. I program what I need. I want to be an electronics engineer, but there you go. I did graduate as with associate's degree from Nova Community College, Northern Virginia Community College. I retired from Fairfax County Public Schools a little over a year ago. I trained to be a cybersecurity technician, but nobody wants a cybersecurity technician near Washington, D.C. without a security clearance. There you go. I graduated from George Mason University with a bachelor's degree. In my spare time while working, I finished up when I retired. Remember, horses are dangerous. I ride motorcycles. Okay. Now, you know what? People don't understand that Linux is just an operating system. They hear about Linux when people are talking about all the bad things people can do with Linux, attacking government buildings or government security computer systems, attacking anybody with cybersecurity. But Linux is far more than that. You have all the desktop applications of Windows that you don't have to pay a ton of money for. Yes, it's true the development lags, but you're not paying a ton of money for it. Yes, it's true that they're not as glitzy as Office applications, but you're not paying a ton of money for it. But it's very usable, and you can use it for a lot of things. I will admit that going to George Mason University, I had to use Windows. There was no way around it. I could have farted around with getting Windows applications to run under Linux, but I was not that determined. But you don't have to. You can if you have a Windows computer and you'd rather use Linux, you can transfer them and get everything to work. And your professor may give you a hard time, but that's the way it is. Now, I'm an oddball because I like HP reverse Polish notation calculators, and nobody uses that anymore. And I think people who teach algebraic calculators ought to be hung up and beat, but that's a different story. And people who don't know reverse Polish calculators, they don't understand that joke at all. Okay, now, but for office and homework and schoolwork, Linux has all the office applications you need: word processor, spreadsheet, database, presentation. I'm using Impress for this presentation. It has math formula presentation tools. You can draw diagrams like Visio, and it has many other programs, and you have to go use Linux and figure out what they are. Now, of course, you can use Google Docs. Google Docs doesn't take Linux to use, but there's other, there's other applications. Of course, Foxfire and Google Chrome will run in Linux. Now, when you use Windows applications, you pay a lot of money for the application. Sure, you can buy a Visual Basic, or old, but you can buy visual products from Microsoft, but you pay a lot of money for it. I had an advertisement the other day. I have a Windows 10 machine that's Microsoft is not going to support it anymore, and it was a proof of good machine. It's fast. I use it, but it's going to fall out of support. I'm going to put Linux on it. And people don't understand. Microsoft doesn't understand that that's what's going to happen to a lot of these computers when they fall out of service. And when you do that, a lot of we are going to understand Linux will work on this machine, but there will be a lot of computers on the market that people don't understand that. And you will get some very good machines, very cheap, on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. It's going to be a gold mine. Okay. And your kids can use Linux to learn programming. And with Linux distributions, you can learn all the programming language you want, but Microsoft programming. But that's okay. We don't need them. But more importantly, you'll get all the skills you need to program under Microsoft without paying a snot ton of money. Okay? And a lot of these programs are more powerful under Linux. A lot of these programming skills are more powerful under Linux because you can identify all the problems from the start. You don't have to go to have a support contract to understand what you're doing wrong. Because you can ask, take a deep breath. I'm getting ahead of myself. You notice I'm not a normal presenter, but that's okay. We'll get this done anyway. You can get support, very effective support from different clubs. I'm part of Northern Virginia Linux Users Group, Novolug, and I ask them questions and they come back within hours and solve my problem. So your support system is built in to learn programming very efficiently, and you can learn programs that learn programming languages that that Microsoft doesn't even support, like Lisp. People don't even know that Lisp is out there. It's used for trying to think of the programming of the applications that's used right offhand, but Lisp is still used, and you still use the programming, the programs built with Lisp, but you don't Lisp, but you don't understand it. You don't know that. And then with Linux, people port very expensive feeling integrated development environments like Idle, NetBeans, and other IDEs. So you're not just programming on out there in the wilderness. You have help from different IDEs. Okay. With the Linux, it's education ready. You just have to go out and apply yourself to learn all the programs that Linux has to offer. Okay. Now, the kids don't realize that with Linux, you get computer-aided mathematics. I'm trying to remember the program right off the bat. But you have like Sage Math, Scilab, Octave, the Linux program or Python library, and other CAM, computer-aided mathematics programs that will do the problems for you. If you type them in correctly, you can get the answer out. In learning how to use the program, you're learning the mathematics you need. So it's not a one-way street where the program is just giving you the answer. In figuring out how to enter the problem, you're also figuring out the correct answer. But it can back you up very effectively. Computers in general are good for rote learning. And from my experience, rote learning is a very basic, necessary learning tool that you need to understand. Yes, it's very basic, it's hard, it's tedious, but rote learning will get you where you need to be. Now, you can Linux has very good graphing programs, so you can see what your math is doing, and there's a lot to Linux you need to understand, and it will support your education once you're on that side of Linux. Now, with open source, you get to see the code. So when you're learning programming, you don't just figure things out yourself. You actually go look at the way other people figured things out. You can download the source code. You can learn from what other people, some very credible people did with their code and how they wrote their code. You don't read in a book how you do the code. You see how other people write code and do very effective work with it. So you're not out in the wilderness. You have tools. You can ask people. You can see what other people did. With Microsoft, you don't get to see what the code is for Microsoft. You don't get to see the subroutines, the different ways things are done. But with Linux, it's all there for you to see and understand. Okay? Now, Linux is telecom ready. It's also cybersecurity ready. If you want to be a cyber criminal, it's also cyber criminal ready. But it's a very powerful tool, and if you want to abuse it, it's there for you to abuse. But if you want to use it for use it for good, it's there for you to use for good also. And you can, when you understand how the history of the telecom industry, how the internet system was developed from telephone calls, and understand and start working back from that, you understand that all of the internet is a telecom operation. It's not a computer operation. So Linux is there for you. Audio visual, we're using audio visual here. There's a lot of video editing and audio editing that you can do. I didn't add any audio to this program. I'm supposed to be the audio, stammering and all. So you get to see how it works with the computer, with the projector. You know, it's all there for you. Now, just some of the programs, Audacity. I use Audacity to record. I play with a band, and I use Audacity to play practice sessions so the band gets to hear how they sound. You know, I'm just put it on play, and I go playing the drums. It's there for you. You know, and to have that kind of feedback from your music helps you understand how you sound and how you need to change your play. Okay, I use 3D printing. I have to admit, I use Windows because I've been beat down and I had to use Windows for my main machine. So I use easy 3D printing modeling programs, and I'll build models for whatever I need. A couple of weeks ago, we needed dingers for triangles at the Prince William Community Band I'm part of. So I got down, I cut my steel, and I made handles on my 3D printer, and it worked out great. Everybody wondered where I got it from. I had to brag and tell them I didn't get it from anywhere. I made it, and they looked incredulous, but there you go. So, but you can download 3D models and you can edit them to your task. You don't have to start from scratch. And that in itself is a learning exercise and a spatial recognition tool you need to use for whatever you want. And just having the ability to make something that you can use every day is an important important skill you can have. Now, you don't have to worry about the details. A lot of times you can just load Linux and use it. Okay. It's like Windows in that way. And if you want to get in depth and change this parameter or change that or write a program, Linux, you can do that. There's a lot of neckbeards, I call them, computer gurus that spend a lot of time figuring out what each individual setting on Linux does and this program and that program, but you don't have to. You can run it, and as you get skilled with it, then you can figure out how things work. I'm using Kali Linux right now. I loaded it. And I started using it. I didn't change anything. I'm backing up my cybersecurity skills with Kali Linux. Kali Linux is a cybersecurity tool. It's a cybersecurity distribution based on Debian, and I didn't have to fiddle with the background stuff. Yeah, I did. I know what Alias does for me, so I made an Alias shortcut just for what I do. Alias is a command line tool that you can use to change the way certain commands operate. You'll look it up, and it's a very easy tool to use. And people don't even Windows doesn't even have anything like that. And Windows uses a lot of graphic user interface things, and so does Linux. But then you want to do things the command line is much more powerful in Linux than perhaps Windows, because of the way Windows is built on top of a graphics user interface. So now, besides spreadsheets, Linux has other tools you can use. Structural engineers, of course, can use spreadsheets, but also there's I didn't write down any names, but it has other tools for engineering purposes. You can use reverse engineering for security engineers. Social engineering, a program is Stormbreaker. Okay. LibreCAD, FreeCAD, and Libre Mechanics all gives you the civil engineering and structural engineering tools you need to use. Traffic engineering, I'll put it up there, but it's there because somebody somewhere's programmed a traffic engineering tool that people use and put it out for free on Linux. Okay. Chemical engineering. Now, I talked about distribution. Now, people that begin using Linux don't understand what a distribution is. It's a collection of tools that have been cobbled together already, all the tweaks and configuration modifications and tweaks so that everything works together more efficiently out of the box. You have Debian, you have Kali Linux, you have stuff you have to pay for like Red Hat. Okay. All these are distributions and you don't have to do anything. I hadn't been talking that long, have it? It seems like I've been up here for hours. Okay. But distributions are collections that have already, all the tweaks and everything have been made. So out of the box, you can use it. That doesn't mean you can't make it better. It just means that you don't have to. So you can use Kali Linux for cybersecurity tools. You can get Ubuntu for general Linux uses, and you can use Fedora for training in server management. You know, it's all out there. Now, when we say individual distributions, you can load any software package you need into almost any, I'm sure somewhere there's an exception, Linux distribution that you need, and you can change what it was initially designed for. It's all out there. You may have to do some extra tweaks here and there to get it to work the way you want, but you can do that. When you load a Debian distribution, you can make it work and just like Kali Linux if you're willing to spend the time to make the changes. When you use Fedora, you can make it act just like Kali Linux. It's all out there for you. You're not restricted, but sometimes it's easier just to start with a distribution that's already designed for what you want. But that doesn't mean you have to. And that doesn't mean that the Kali Linux distribution is what you need. You may need other things. Like when I loaded Kali Linux, it did not come with LibreOffice package. I just loaded it and used it. Okay, I didn't have to do a whole lot of things for it. Now I got 24 minutes to go. I'll tell you what. Now, Linux is ready for what you want to do. You don't have to go out and buy and figure out a bunch of things. It's ready for what you want to do today. It's Now, how far do you want to go? It's also ready for that. You can take it for all your cybersecurity, all your computer science classes at college, but the college may want you to use Windows. I remember a time when WordPerfect was what every college used. And WordPerfect liked that because everybody knew how to use WordPerfect and took it on to their work after college. Now it's Windows. That's just what everybody uses now. I'm not a fan of Microsoft products because people don't remember DR-DOS and several other applications that were managed. We'll call it managed. So DR-DOS was was a replacement for MS-DOS that forced Microsoft to make serious changes to Microsoft DOS just to keep up because it overrun MS-DOS before Windows 3.1. So that's old. That's old history. So I tend not to like Microsoft products as a rule. Okay. Now, what do you want to do with Linux? Does anybody have a project they want to do that they don't understand where to go for the application? There's a student that's never used Maxima. That's the the computer-aided mathematics program. Exactly. You didn't even know it existed before this. And you can use it to check your math. But in learning how to use Mathematica, you're also learning math. So, so I don't mind giving out that piece of cheat. I'll call it a cheat. It's not really a cheat. You will definitely learn how to use math when you use Mathematica, or not Mathematica. Mathematica is the paid-for program, and the program I was talking about, I escaped my brain, and now I can remember is Mathematica. Maxima, yeah. Actually, Mathematica was built from Maxima. And the Mathematica, Maxima was a DARPA project from what I understand. And then it was used in colleges and universities, and somebody figured out, well, if I take that and I build on top of it, I can get more out of it. Okay. So now that's the way I understand it. And it's very powerful. If you've never used it, you'd be impressed. Now, is it commercialized? No. Does it have all the fancy interfaces? No. But it's very impressive. If you've never used it, you will be amazed. It has the graphics interfaces. You can make graphs with it. You can do statistics. It's very powerful. Anybody else? Okay. Yes.
So I've been using Linux for about 2 years, I guess, on my own. I settled on Fedora.
Okay.
I love it. I guess my question is more like, what do you think would be like the pros and cons for software development using Fedora versus something more downstream like Alma or Rock?
Fedora is a premier package. It's not, you say downstream. Fedora is more downstream of Red Hat Linux, and that's not downstream package. You could find some more packages that may be built more for programming, but you will not find them much better than Fedora. Fedora is a good package. Okay.
I certainly wasn't saying it was better or worse. My understanding of upstream and downstream was like Fedora was upstream of like Red Hat.
Exactly.
A lot of the testing and stuff taking place. And then I guess the question too is like, would the downstream and the other distributions past that be more stable? Would that be an advantage?
You can't always say that. The modifications people make along the development path makes them stable in some ways, makes them unstable in some ways. So you get a package, you stick with it, and you use it, and find the problems. But you won't get much packages much better than Fedora because of the Red Hat development behind it. It is different than Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but it's not, it's a very good package. Now you might try Fedora for doing what you're doing, but that's a different package. It's based on Debian. Packages, initially, you had, when Linux came out, you had 2 or 3 main producers of packages. You had SUSE, Debian was an old package. You have Red Hat is an old package. So you have very few really base packages, and Red Hat's one of them. Debian, Ubuntu is based on Debian. It seems like everybody's based on Debian. Arch may be a little bit different because it's based on, it starts basic. So you kind of build it up as you want to. But others are based on other packages and improve on it as they go. So Red Hat is a base, I consider it a base package. Debian is a base packages, but then YouTube is built on Debian. And, so that's my point of view. Other people may have different points of view, but Fedora is an offshoot of Red Hat, but not really. It's kind of different. Red Hat had to support the old infrastructure that it had, and Debian is kind of the new infrastructure they'd like to go to. So, but it's a very good package all in itself. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next. Well, nobody has to. I'm good at talking, but not really. My reason for having this is you go to all these seminars and some of them are very complicated. Some of them, that's okay. I can walk around. Radio gives me ability to walk. So there's and what I wanted to do with this is to bring people into Linux. The newcomers that don't understand what Linux gives them would be hesitant to develop a lot of time learning how Linux works as opposed to Windows. They've already spent a lot of time learning how Windows works, but Linux things work a little bit differently. There's a learning curve to overcome. No matter how small it is, a learning curve, and that's what I wanted to present with this seminar, so people understand that Linux is very powerful. It doesn't look as glitzy as Windows because Microsoft spends a lot of money making Linux look good. But Linux is very powerful and has features that Windows cannot come up with. So, cannot use, cannot give to people. Yes, sir. Let me get you a microphone. Pardon me.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that Microsoft's own cloud runs on Linux.
Yeah. And that's because Windows wasn't designed to be a server system like Linux is designed. Okay. Unix was designed to be run as a server that had clients. Windows was designed to be a client of servers. It was designed to be more basic so that people didn't have a hard time getting to it. Like DOS was not designed as a network system. And Windows 95 was designed on top of DOS. So there's a lot of, somebody should have told me. But there's infrastructure behind the different systems. So yes, Microsoft uses Linux or a Unix system because it's more powerful for some things. Well, in being powerful as a server, it's also powerful as a desktop too. There's a lot of things you can do with Linux.
So you've been talking a lot about the comparison with Windows. I work in a shop, and a lot of my coworkers use Macintosh. Can you address the differences with Macs?
I like Microsoft, but I won't pay for the hardware or the social structure behind Macintosh. I mean, behind the Apple, they didn't build Apples to be network servers. They built them to be user systems. And to tell you the truth, I don't mess with Apples because they are more expensive. I'm cheap. I build my own equipment, and Apple doesn't give you any of that ability. You buy a system, and that's what you got. There's a few things you can do with it, but not much. So I don't have the inroads to talk about Apple as much as, but at the same time, you don't see Apple servers. You see, you see Windows servers because Windows wants to bridge that gap, and you see Linux servers. And now you might see a Cray supercomputer. You might see a university support other systems, but they are specialized. Like we started it, the history of computers started out that way. Every system was specialized. They didn't talk to each other. Now we're integrating, so systems are beginning to talk to each other. But yes, sir.
I'm not a computer professional, but I've played around with Linux for about 25 years and had some periods of frustration, but I'd always been kind of built my own machines from components. And of course, when Windows was becoming one of the most expensive components, when I decided I really shouldn't pirate it, I was trying to gravitate to Linux. And what really convinced me was my son, who in architecture at Georgia Tech, his senior year, I think we got him a new laptop. He gave me his old laptop, which I believe was running Windows 8. And I booted it up and looked at the statistics on it, whatever you call it. And just with the operating system idling, it was using like 60% of the computer's resources. I installed Linux. I forget which version. I think it might have been SUSE but when I looked at that it was maybe 30% of the resources that the Linux used idly. So to me, that's, I mean, I had more use of the machine, you know.
Exactly.
I could do everything. The only thing I cannot do with Linux is my taxes. I have to use Windows to run TurboTax, but I know I could run it in Wine, maybe.
Yeah, that takes a lot of
Yeah.
setup and configuration.
So once a year, I'll boot into Windows and spend 2 hours doing the updates and then install TurboTax and get my taxes done.
Well, you can use the online version of TurboTax, but exactly, and that's what I'm talking about. I have a Windows 10 machine that Microsoft is going to abandon. It works good with Windows still. It does everything I need. I haven't said I bought it for $25, and it's an all-in-one machine. It has the screen, disk drive, computer, all in one package. I set it up on my kitchen desk, kitchen counter, and I use it for, a bunch of things. I watch programs on it. Recipes. I can program on it. I've put Python on it, but in a few weeks it's going to go out of support, and it's going to be open for attack for security issues. So I'm going to put Linux on it, and it'll be just fine. So, and yes, Linux will support old hardware. I've been impressed with the different, the older Linux distributions will support older hardware better, and the newer ones, the newer Linux distributions will overwhelm older hardware. So there is that divide, but Linux will do very well on older hardware. Anything else? Yes, sir.
So 14 years ago, I was at Southeast Linuxfest, and a guy from Mecklenburg County GIS, Graphic Information Systems, was using a Windows-based server using ArcGIS, and the whole system was running slow. And but worse than that, he had to reboot the server every night because it had memory leaks and it was just dying. He switched his entire operation from a Microsoft stack to Linux using Postgres as a database and OpenStreetMap, all open source software, complete open source stack. The guy's name was Toby. I forgot his last name. But I believe he's still there, because if you go to mcmap.org, it's got the entire Mecklenburg mapping, and it never crashes, and it's really great.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. If you like, I went to an estate sale and bought this computer for $25. Nobody wanted it. I might have been able to talk them down from $25 even, but Linux will support older hardware, and for a student, just goes out and buys older hardware from wherever they get it, from Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or the boutique. I call the Salvation Army thrift store the boutique. Okay, so but you get it from the boutique, and you bring it home and you set it up and you run Linux, and you have a usable system. It might not be the system you want. You might not be able to play the games you want, but you'll be able to do your homework. You could. Some people set up 4 or 5 to do different things, just depending on what they want to do with it. Linux is a very powerful system with low user, with low resource requirements that will revive older machines. Now, I will say that's not necessarily a thing a new user wants to do. Okay, because it does take a little bit of work, but it's not unmanageable. I learned to use Linux. Anybody can learn Linux. Okay. But it's there for you to use. And in figuring out the problems and fixing the problems also helps you with the computer management that you'd like to do in the future. My son, I had to force him to come down to Southeast Linuxfest the first time. He was 13 or 14. And then after that, it wasn't a problem. He come down here, and now he's working for a government contractor, making $160,000 a year. So, you know, I do break my arm patting myself on the back with him. So you know, it's out there. And I keep telling him he went through some college, but he didn't go do very much. He's just really a high school student, and he's been working his way up. He's 33 now, and he hasn't really gone to college. I tell him he needs to go, but he's going to hit a glass ceiling if he doesn't. But he started as desktop support, phone support, and worked his way up. They found out he knew a little bit of Linux. They put him into the Linux admin, and now he's a manager of like 65 people. So, and he asked me for help on some things. But you know, Linux is out there for you to use, and that's how he does it. And his main job is manager, and now he beats up Linux admins because they don't know what they're supposed to know. So, well, thank you much. Is there any other questions? Y'all are probably getting tired of listening to me brag about my son. So, thank you much. Don't be afraid of learning Linux. It's not going to tear up your computer. Put it on, try it, and if you make a mistake, re-put the distribution back on it. You know, there's nothing you can do to harm your system. Y'all have a good day.